Bruce Lee was asked, "What's your fighting philosophy?" by Fraser. His answer left Joe in. Bruce Lee was asked, "What's your fighting philosophy?" by Fraser. His answer left Joe in silence. Joe Frazier adjusted his hand guards, his knuckles still throbbing from the last round of punches on the heavy bag. The gym smelled of sweat and leather and liniment, the same smell as all the places where men prepared to break each other. He had heard of Bruce Lee, the thin Chinese man who moved like water and hit like a hammer. They said he didn't fight, he disappeared. And now, here he was, leaning against the wall with his arms crossed, watching Frazier with those eyes that seemed to see through flesh. "So, Lee," Frazier grunted, wiping sweat from his forehead with his forearm. "What is your fighting philosophy?" Bruce didn't respond right away. He pushed himself away from the wall, his bare feet sliding across the mat as if there was no friction. He stopped 3 feet from Frazier, enough for the heavyweight champion to feel the weight of the silence. "Philosophy?" Bruce smiled, but it wasn't a challenging smile. It was the smile of someone who already knew the answer before the question was asked. "You want a philosophy, Joe? All good. I'll give you one." He raised his right hand, his fingers slightly curved, as if he was holding something invisible. "Imagine you are a glass. Full to the brim. If I ask you if it's full, you'll say yes. But if I pour more water, what happens? Overflows. You become useless." Bruce's fingers closed into a loose fist. Most fighters are full glasses. They train techniques, repeat movements, accumulate knowledge until nothing else fits. And when the fight begins, they overflow. They think too much. They hesitate. Frazier frowned. He was not a thinker. He was a man of action. But something about that comparison bothered him. "And you?" he asked, his voice hoarse. "What is it, then?" Bruce opened his hand again. "I am the empty glass." He hit himself in the chest. "I don't carry techniques. I carry possibilities. I have no style. I have adaptation. When you attack me, I don't see a punch. I see movement. And a movement can become anything, a block, a counterattack, an escape. I am not water because I am fluid. I am water because no matter what you do, I am already there." Frazier felt the air grow heavier. He knew that kind of talk, guys who talked about energy and flow usually couldn't last 3 rounds. But there was something in Bruce's eyes, an intensity that wasn't theater. It was certainty. "Okay," Frazier grumbled, crossing his arms. "Then show me." Bruce didn't move. "I don't need it. You already know." "You know what?" "That you are strong. That you hit hard. That you never give up." Bruce tilted his head. "But strength is not power, Joe. Power is control. And control is not holding back the punch. It's knowing that you can hold on, and choosing not to." Frazier laughed, but there was no humor in the laugh. "Are you saying I don't control my own power?" "I'm saying you think you control it." Bruce took a step forward. "When you get in the ring, you don't fight the other guy. You struggle with the idea of losing. Against the fear of not being enough. And that fear? It blinds you. It makes you hit harder than you need to. It makes you tired. Makes you lose." The silence that followed was so thick that Frazier heard his own heart beating in his ears. He wanted to fight back, he wanted to laugh, he wanted to call Bruce crazy and leave. But Lee's words had found a chink in his armor, and now they spread like poison. "And what do you do with that fear?" Frazier asked, his voice lower. Bruce smiled again, but this time there was something sad about it. "I use it." He touched his own chest. "Fear is fuel. But only if you stop being the full glass and learn to be the empty one. Only if you stop fighting him and start fighting him." Frazier looked away. He thought about all the fights, all the sleepless nights, the weight of being the champion, the constant fear that one day someone would take him down. He thought about how, even after knocking Ollie out, he still woke up sweating, feeling like something was missing. "That's bullshit," he muttered, but there was no conviction in his voice. Bruce didn't insist. He just took a step back and made a gesture with his hand, as if to say, "The choice is yours." "You're going to fight Ollie again," Bruce said, as if reading his thoughts. "And he will win. Not because it's stronger. But because, in that moment, you will remember what it is like to be empty." Frazier did not respond. He grabbed the gloves, put them on with sudden movements and left the gym without looking back. But as he walked through the streets of Philadelphia, with the cold wind hitting his face, he couldn't get Bruce's words out of his head. Empty. Possibilities. Control. And for the first time in years, Joe Frazier felt something he hadn't felt since he was a boy: doubt. Epilogue: The last round. 3 years later, in a ring in Manila, Frazier and Ollie faced each other for the third time. The thriller in Manila would go down in history as one of the most brutal fights ever fought. Frazier, with his eyes almost swollen shut, his lips split, his body covered in bruises, was still standing up. It was still advancing. He still fought. But, in the 14th round, his coach threw in the towel. There, exhausted, he could barely stand. When the fight was over, he said it had been the closest thing to death. Frazier never spoke about what happened next. But years later, in an interview, a reporter asked, "Joe, what did you learn from that fight?" Frazier stared into space for a long time. Then, in the hoarse voice of a man who bore too many scars, he replied, "That strength is not enough. That you can hit and hit and hit and still lose." He paused. "And that sometimes the only way to win is to stop trying to be strong." The reporter frowned, confused. Frazier smiled, a tired, almost sad smile. "Yeah. I didn't understand it at the time either." And then, as if the words of a man who had died years before were finally making sense, he added, "But now I understand." The last round. The years following that fight were a slow descent. Frazier remained in the ring, but something in him had broken. It wasn't just the injuries, the broken bones, the tendons stretched to their limits, it was the knowledge that no matter how hard he tried, he would never be the same. There, under the lights of Madison Square Garden, he had seen something few men saw: the abyss within himself. He lost more than fights. He lost blind confidence in his own strength. He lost the illusion that the world rewarded those who hit hardest. And, worse, he lost the anger that drove him. Without her, he was just an old man, with swollen hands and a memory full of ghosts. One day, in a rundown Philadelphia gym, a young fighter came to him. He was nobody, just one of hundreds who dreamed of being the next Frazier. But there was something about the way he moved, tentatively, as if he knew he would never be good enough. "Do you think I have what it takes?" asked the boy, his eyes shining with a hope that Frazier no longer had. He could have lied. "I could have said yes, that strength was enough, that will conquered everything." But Ali's words, echoing in his head like a phantom punch, stopped him. "No," Frazier said, and the boy turned pale. "But that doesn't matter." "Like this?" "Because you're going to fight anyway. And that's what makes you a fighter." The boy didn't understand. Frazier didn't expect him to understand. Years later, when cancer was already consuming him, Frazier received an unexpected visitor. There, now a shaky old man, his voice slurred by Parkinson's disease, entered the hospital room. The two hadn't spoken for decades. The world had changed, and so had they. "Joe," Ollie said, and his voice was a broken whisper. Frazier did not respond. He just looked at him, his eyes opaque, his body reduced to almost nothing. I wanted to apologize," Ollie continued, the words coming out with difficulty. "For everything." Frazier closed his eyes. He remembered the ring, the sweat, the blood, the pain. He remembered how he had hated that man. And he also remembered how, deep down, he had never succeeded. No need, he murmured. Ollie hesitated, as if he expected more. But Fraser had nothing more to say. The fight had ended a long time ago. When Ollie left, Fraser stared at the ceiling. He thought about all the times he had hit, all the times he had been hit. He thought about how, in the end, neither of them had really won. They had just survived. And then, as if one last truth was revealed to him, he smiled. The strength was not enough. Never had been. But the fight, yes. And that, at least, no one could take away from him.